How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech. Now, the new Aero Classic is a Gigabyte's latest addition to their very popular thin and light but powerful Aero range of laptops. It's called the Classic because at Computex 2019, Gigabyte unveiled their new Aero 15 and 17 but OLED models, which does have a new refresh design. So the Classic keeps the old design, but now comes out with a 9th generation Intel CPUs, and then also you get a 240Hz display option. Now, just quickly going over the design again of the new Classic, it does come out with this ultra slim body that is made out of mostly aluminum that does keep the weight down to only 2 kilograms, but still makes the chassis feel extremely durable with only a tiny amount of keyboard flex. Speaking of the keyboard, you get a compact but full-size scissor switch keyboard that feels extremely nice to type on with a low travel distance, silent switches, and a very snappy response. But of course, I do still prefer my mechanical keyboards for gaming, but otherwise this is still going to work perfectly. And it does come with 7 color RGB backlit keys that you can see in the daytime, and then also a bunch of cool different effects that you can apply, like Rainbow Wave. For the trackpad, it is still one of the best trackpads that I've used, being extremely smooth and precise, plus adding that new 240Hz display, it makes it feel extremely smooth. You do also still, of course, get your left and right clicks buttons underneath the trackpad at the bottom. Moving on to I/O, you honestly get everything you need with plenty of USBs, Thunderbolt 3, a Gigabit Ethernet port, and a full-size SD card reader, which for some reason a lot of companies are fading out. They'd rather put in a micro SD card, but it has a full one, which is awesome, especially if it's more aimed for content creators. Now then, moving on to the display, you get this very nice thin bezeled 15.6-inch screen that you can either get in a 1080p 240Hz option or a 4K 60Hz option. Both being calibrated by X-Rite Pantone for better color accuracy, but each one does have their own strengths. The 4K option covers 100% of the Adobe RGB color space, so extremely color accurate for a productivity, whereas the 1080p 240Hz option is more aimed for gamers who still wants good color accuracy, but probably wants that crazy fast refresh rate. Then just lastly, a few extra points on the display. You can open up with a single finger. It features an anti-glare coating for any harsh sunlight. And for the high refresh rate model that I currently have here, the viewing angles are also very good, with only a little to no darkening or color shifts when viewing it from other angles. Then as for the webcam and microphone, you guys can see in here now, 720p, not the greatest quality, and it is mounted down at the bottom, which I honestly like. It allows for more real estate at the top for the thin bezels, so they don't take up too much space there. Now, just like some of the previous Aero models, you do get Azure AI, which is a Microsoft's AI technology which automatically manages your power delivery. It does increase your performance somewhat if you don't want to do anything manually, but from my use case, I mostly did all of my overclocks and my power management on my own, which I found to be the best. And also with the Azure AI, it'll automatically ramp up the fans even when I'm not doing anything, which did get annoying. But it's up to you if you want to use that or not. Again, it did increase performance somewhat, but it's going to be up to you. So then finally getting into the benchmarks. So for the model I have here with the i7-9750H, an RTX 2070 Max Q, and 16 gigs of 2666 MHz memory, I got every game to range around 100 to 200 FPS on its max preset. So to reach that 240Hz display in FPS, you might need to play around with some of the settings. Then for ray tracing, there's honestly nothing new. I'm still not the biggest fan of ray tracing really, because you lose a lot of your frames. It does make your game look better with really nice lighting, I have to say, but you're losing a lot of frames, especially if you want to use that 240 Hz refresh rate. But I will say that if you want to primarily use that ray tracing technology for your productivity, that is where it'll actually come in handy. Now, I'm not too familiar with all the ray tracing tech for productivity wise, but it has a 2070 max Q and it goes up to an RTX 2080 max Q, so you'll probably know how well it should perform there, but you do have that option, ray tracing, or just turn it off. Now, as for the production side, the 9750H does quite well in rendering and encoding. It's not really that much faster than the 8750H, but it does get good results in Realbench, Cinebench, Blender, and Premiere. Now, moving on to cooling, which is unfortunately the weakest point for the Aero laptop. It is understandable because it is only 1.8 centimeters thick and is packed with such high specs, but the cooling isn't the greatest. When doing a combination of high intensity GPU and CPU workloads, it caused the CPU to thermal throttle quite a lot and quite easily, around even 20%. But for more single use cases like games or Blender renders where it would only use either the GPU mostly or the CPU mostly, it split the load up a lot more, where you got a more power throttling going on, where it actually reduced the clock speeds for the CPU or for your GPU. The CPU would easily reach around 90 degrees even on not as intense work applications, and then it would start to power throttle, going down from that 4.1 GHz on all 6 cores down to between 1.6 to 3 GHz. So it does take quite a performance hit if it does reach that 90-degree threshold, but still, being that it is so thin with such high specs, it actually does quite well. So you're getting decent gaming performance, you're getting a decent rendering performance, so honestly it's actually nothing too major. Alright, now as for our fan noise, currently it is on 2500 RPM for both of the fans. You guys can hear how it sounds over my voice. It is audible, but it's not actually that bad. Now let's activate the fan boost mode and hear how that sounds over my voice. It ramps up to around 5900 RPM. And this is how loud it gets, honestly not too bad. And then as for your speakers, you do actually get pretty reasonable 2-watt bottom facing speakers. That does lack a bass somewhat because it doesn't have a sub, but for most use cases like music, movies, and your casual game here and there, it's actually plenty good enough. And if you do want to play some competitive games, of course, then you just use a surround sound headset. Then finally getting into battery life. So the 94 watt-hour li-polymer battery delivers pretty good on time. You can expect around 5 to 6 hours of casual use on power saving mode. I got around 1 to 2 hours of gaming use. Media consumption was also not too bad, and screen on time was around 8 hours. So honestly good enough, and the power adapter was also not too big. So then that's pretty much it for my review of the new Aero Classic from Gigabyte. Still one of the base thinner light but powerful laptops on the market. Even if it's just for gaming, for productivity, it doesn't matter, performs really well. And I have to say that 240 Hz option, it does look really nice when gaming on, even though most games hardly get to that 240 Hz, but I played some CS:GO and it looked really smooth. But if you're looking for a more production work, then just go for the 4K option. Color accuracy is going to be on point with that. And of course, you do get a few other spec-wise options that you can go for, ranging from the 1660 to the 2080. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to get the Aero Classic or any of the Aeros for yourself, just follow the links in the video description, and then I will check all of you guys next time. Cheers, guys.